Welcome back, everybody, to the Squatchers Lounge podcast. Here it is, Wednesday, August 19th, 2020. And we have a show for you tonight. That's right. The Don Young and the $100,000 challenge. That's right. We're going to learn all about that $100,000 challenge and why it never really came to fruition. But I digress. We've got some other things in the works. First off on the show tonight. That's right. As a bunch of you guys have seen, I posted about an elusive sighting that we had during our camp out down in Pi Valley about 10 days ago. Again, the Duncans, they came down from Oregon. Mary and Aaron are just kings of camping. I mean, they know how to do it. They do it right. They're fabulous people to be with it. If you ever get the opportunity to go camping with them, I absolutely recommend it. They're fun people to be around, and they know their stuff when it comes down to it. The first day of Pi, everybody kind of got there a little later than we expected to. It was hotter than we would like to have been. GPSs were sending everybody where to and fro, and finally the evening set in on us, and we got to get around camp and get a good look, get everything set up, and had some good food. And we had a propane fire the first night, which was great because nobody had to go down there and smack on wood and start any real fires. So we enjoyed the propane fire on camp night number one, and it was a tiring night. That's a lot of work. So everybody knows going in and setting up camp is a lot of work, and we were all tired, went to bed, and camp was full. The campground down there usually is all booked up. There's a few walk-in sites, but it was really, really full. Laser light shows every single night as everybody went back to their campsites looking for quiet hour. And even after, so, some people walked around with flashlights, and it was kind of strange to be disturbed while people were like right there outside of our tent. But, it was like 1 o'clock in the morning when this asshole showed up with this giant spotlight in the sky. And I woke up and I was like, who the hell's shining this giant spotlight? Is there a street lamp out there? And I'm like, oh, wait, we're in the middle of the forest and there's no power in this campground. What the hell? Sure enough, it was the moon. God had showed up with the giant spotlight. He happened to be the asshole in the sky that night. And sure enough, for hours, that just tracked right over top of my tent that has a white cover on it, and it just beamed right down on the old Reverend's head. I do not believe that Zorth came to visit me. I do not believe I was being healed. But the God showed up with the spotlight on my face all night long. It was quite interesting. Every time I woke up, there it was. Second day, we got down to the river, and there was a whole bunch of river boulders and everything. Gold mining was a thing that was going to be going on during the camp out, and sure enough, that is what we did, man. Everybody grabbed their gold pans and their buckets and their picks and their shovels and their tools, and we went to the river, and we dug, and we dug, and we dug some more, and we classified, and we put stuff in buckets, and we brought it back to camp. And we ate and we dug some more and played in the river and took a bath in the river. And it was a just amazing day in a beautiful hidden valley in the middle of nowhere with just wonderful people. Everybody was nice and smiles and the happiness going around. Every once in a while, there was the inconvenient troop of non-English speaking people who wanted to parade 40 people through our camp to get to a different camp. But I digress. For the most part, they were wonderful, shiny, happy people. Friday came, and again, Thursday night, that was the second night, that asshole showed up at the spotlight again. But it was really like laser light shows. Somebody had green lasers, red lasers, and they were just out playing the game. And of course, at 1 o'clock in the morning, that asshole in the sky showed up with that friggin' beam. And it just went over my tent and all through the night. Stuck right on Reverend Jeff's freaking forehead. You'd think with all the tree cover that wouldn't be possible, but then again, I digress. So Friday is usually the day that we go out of the valley and back up onto the ridge, and we go out to Cook Station. And Cook Station is a cattle station that has been there on the wagon route out to Tahoe for as long as people have been coming from Tahoe to this area. And it's the last one that's on that's actually still in existence out there. It's been there since the 1800s, and there's neat little pictures of it inside. It's not what it used to be, but it used to be a brothel, and it used to be a lot of things. It used to be a lot of things that those wagon stations absolutely were. But that's the closest place to get ice, maybe a little bite, something to eat. If you want to buy something to drink, you can do it there. Everybody was wearing masks. The whole Corona thing was crazily overdone. There were people walking by themselves down the boardwalk outside wearing a mask. Couldn't understand why, but it was being done. Anyhow. We had left Mary and Aaron when we left Cook Station. They were going to take their puppies and stop along the river in a couple of places and let them run they're tired themselves out. And the wife and I decided we were going to go back to camp and get into the river and start to dig. And it was on our way back to camp that we actually had our elusive encounter. Now, I'm going to describe this elusive encounter in such a way that I'm not trying to offend anybody here. I'm really not. I'm going to give you the facts as to what happened, and it's going to be a learning lesson as to why I did some of the things I did, and why I did some of the things that didn't do some of the things that I didn't do. When the wife and I go anywhere in and out of this valley, we always keep our eyes peeled for animals. I mean, we've seen deer, and we've seen ducks and quail and pheasant and not pheasant, grouse, all kind of stuff. I mean, there's just lots and lots of animals in and out of this valley all the time, but I had never actually run into one of these. Literally right outside of camp, as we were trying to pull into camp, there were these beings blocking the road. Now, these beings that were blocking the road, they were obviously humanoid type creatures because they were dressed in human clothes, and one was on a motorcycle, a dirt bike, and one was on an ATV, and they were on the hardpack road for vehicles, and they had literally had to have passed like 4 or 5 signs that were written that says no off-road highway vehicles beyond this point to get to where they were. Now, of course, so they were in a location that they weren't supposed to be in the first place, and they were blocking traffic getting into camp. And we were already frustrated, and I was violently car sick because the switchbacks coming in and out of this valley are not fun, and they refused to move. Usually when you honk at an animal that's in the road, it kind of goes, "Oh, excuse me," and it gets the hell out of the way. But apparently these creatures weren't of normal intelligence. I'm not really sure what to really think of it. But one of them screamed in a language that I didn't quite understand at first. That we should wait, and I politely returned out the window in a loud manner because we were 20 feet away in a car with the window only cracked that far to please get out of the street. And please was first and the last thing that actually was uttered out of my mouth. And as they finally made enough passageway for the car to go through, we went through it. And there was a bang on the car. And then there was a, "Hey, what the F do you think you're doing?" And the car stopped suddenly because, I looked at my wife and said, "Could you stop this car for a minute?" And I stepped out of the car for a learning moment. I figured maybe we could all learn from this moment as to why voices were raised and why they weren't raised, because I got screamed at as I went by as though I was doing something inappropriate. So I wanted to know what the problem was. And this violent, racist being stepped straight forward and out of his mouth uttered, "Fuck you, nigger." That was the first thing out of his mouth. Now, I'm not sure if you guys are watching this or you can actually see the screen, but by in no means did I incite some kind of violent racist meaning from this bun-haired being. Now, I would normally call it a dude, a guy, a man, maybe. But from what I understand, these beings have like 52 genders. So I didn't want to assume to what it was. But I didn't respond in kind. I didn't go racist. I didn't go violent. I said, excuse me? Is there a problem here, son? I just wanted you to get out of the street. I just wanted you to get out of the way of the cars and the places that you weren't supposed to be. And I even said, please. Now, if that wasn't good enough for you, now you can go F yourself. That was the total extent of my frustration. I wasn't even screaming. You people would be very proud of the restraint that I had at that point. And the next thing he did was ball up a fist and cock it back and said, I'll beat your white ass here, you old fucking redneck hick hillbilly. There were a few other buttons that he pushed. It was the violent racist was literally going down buttons to see which one was going to get his teeth knocked out. Now, seeing as how I'm not any of those things, I really didn't take offense to any of the things that he was called. Now, had he reached heathen or savage, he probably would have been knocked to the ground and been counting his teeth out in his hand, but he didn't quite get there yet. And just as I was about to teach the young man why it's a bad idea to mess with us old timers, because we just don't have time to fight. We don't have time because, we're old and we're broken, so we'll have to hurt you fast. The violent, angry mother racist comes out of nowhere and grabs my attention by screaming the same racial epithet button pushing that her son started down the way. Okay, so she started pushing every racist name button down the list she could get to see whether my wife was going to knock her out. And that's when I realized that, unfortunately for this elusive, violent, racist creature, 100 miles from civilization, mind you, that it wasn't its fault. That its parent was obviously the source of its violent racist hatred, and it just completely disarmed me. I looked at the wife. I said, you know what? Let's just get back in the car and get out of here. Well, unfortunately for the young violent racist to my back, he balled up a fist and went to come at me again as I went to get in my car while I was vulnerable. Sucker punch, of course. That's what they wanted to do. But I was quick enough to turn around and warn him that he would be counting his teeth up off the ground, and we can do bloody if that's what it needed to be. He decided that the old guy probably wasn't going to back down, and it would really have come to blows in the national forest. I would have had to explain to the United States Forestry Service why I nearly beat an elusive creature to death 100 miles from civilization. It was just freaking crazy. Now, what did we learn from this? Well, we learned always carry pepper spray. It really is a great equalizer. My pepper spray, my bear spray was at camp because we were going up to town. 2, strike first, strike fast, strike hard. Don't wait to be a victim. Don't turn your back on them because they will get you. And 3, you can run into the elusive violent racist anywhere. So just be prepared for it. That really was the elusive sighting that we had at camp, and it was shocking, because I was outnumbered 5-1. I mean, there was no doubt about it. These young people probably would have stomped the mud puddle in me after I knocked the teeth out of the bun-haired one, but it would have been worth it. But I didn't. I kept my cool, because once the mother came up and displayed her violent racist button pushing, it was just amazing to see the child come right out. You could hear the mother's words coming out of her son. And I say child, but he was over 20, way old enough to know better and old enough to have gotten an ass beaten from the old Reverend Jeff. I mean, really, really, really. So anyhow, that's what happened going back into Pi Pi. It was absolutely crazy. But we didn't let it ruin anything. We got back to camp. The Duncans joined us, and we went back into the water and dug more gold out of the ground. So that's what we did. Bigfoot, where's there Bigfoot out there? Yeah, probably. It was hot. Weren't a lot of big creatures moving around. The cows, we heard a couple of nights. Yeah, they were free grazing some cows up on the ridge. Talked to a few people while I was there and got some childhood. Maybe could have been Bigfoot sightings. I always like to do that. People like to tell me stories, that stuff that just doesn't seem right. But in the end, it was 5 fabulous days in the Pai Pai Valley of just laying in the river, digging out gold, chicken in the bread pan, picking out gold. That's right. Devil went down to Georgia because he was in a bind. He was way behind. He was willing to make a deal. Anyhow, that's what went on down there at Pai Pai. We're going back again next year, the first week of August. We always do. It always is a free trip. And if you guys want to join us out there, then come on out. We'll definitely go in. Hopefully, we won't run into the elusive, the elusive friggin' big stupid violent racist. It was horrible. It really, really was horrible. But the camping trip was amazing. And Mary and Aaron are like family now. So yeah, we look forward to seeing you guys to go camping any time. And with that, now that we're 15 minutes into the show, let's let Dean lift our spirits with a little bit of a quasi theory, and then we'll get into the $100,000 Bigfoot hoax and see where that went from there. So now, here's our quasi theory from a quasi-scientist. And now, quasi theories from a quasi-scientist with your host, Dean Cooper.
'Tis the season to be sneezing. I have a cold, a rather annoying cold. My wife gave it to me. She got it when she went to the doctor's office. It's been a week since it started on me. It's the first I've had in several years, despite my wife trying to give me hers a couple of times a year. Here's where I do the required quote from Wikipedia. They usually resolve in 7 to 10 days, but some can last for up to 3 weeks. The average duration of coughing is 18 days, and in some cases people develop a post-viral cough which can linger after the infection is gone. I had to modify that quote a bit because the author apparently didn't understand common English usage. Great. They might as well have said, you'll feel like crap for a couple 3 weeks, get used to it. The most annoying thing about a cold, to me anyways, is when you sneeze or cough and somebody says, God bless you. If you believe that God will somehow cure someone because you declared that God should bless you, aren't you trying to countermand God's will? Didn't God give that cold to that special someone to begin with? Isn't everything God's will? And which God? I find it difficult to believe that the presumed creator of the heavens, earth, and hell, well, hell, let's throw in all the possible other universes and alternate timelines and subdimensions and all things quantum. Where was I? Damn sneezing attack made me lose my train of thought. I edited out of the audio. No need to splatter my audience with it. Bad enough it splooshed my monitor and keyboard. Oh yeah, God. That's where I was. Okay, so if you insist that God cure someone's cold and you want God to then cure that cold, aren't you basically trying to order God around? Sounds like you're treading on dangerous grounds there, my friend. Time for some Our Fathers, Hail Marys, Hare Krishnas, and maybe throw in an Om Namah Shivaya or two. What if you're a pantheist with a whole pantheon of gods? Which god or goddess is the god or goddess of the common cold? What do you offer that god or goddess as a sacrifice to bribe him or her into curing a cold? Burnt Kleenex? Light up a lamp filled with high-octane, high-alcohol content cough syrup? Gallons of orange juice spiked with vitamin C? No, best leave God and or gods out of it. Goddesses too. You could say, like the Germans, Gesundheit, which literally means be in a state of wellness. But that's essentially an order, and we all know what happens when Germans start issuing orders. Now I gotta go blow my nose and hawk up a lung. You may read the text of this on my blog at bydean.com. That's BHAIDIN.com.
bydean.com. And there you have it, folks. Don't forget to wear your face underwear when you go outside. Better safe than sorry. Sorry. I couldn't resist. All right, let's take a look at who's hanging out in the live hangout with us tonight. We'll see what's going on. Bucknell, the Bigfoot guy. Hello, Bucknell, the Bigfoot guy. Miss Bella Allegria, so glad that you are here, ma'am. Glad you are feeling up to it. Tank Glass 88. I see him in the house with Shane Barber as well. Moving on down the list to, oh my God, we're going to try this. Matej Kojic. I'm trying it. Hello, Tokyo, Japan. That's right. Glad you are tuning in, man. I got a friend of mine, Keith, is over there in Tokyo teaching in some school. So God bless the Tokyo people. And Fukushima to you too. Frank G's in the house. There it is. Frank G. Hello there, sir. That asshole Jeffrey Kelly's in the house. I heard he ran into some racist, friggin' violent jackass at 5-5. It was weird. Aaron Duncan, hello. Miss Mary sitting behind you. I am sure. I got my Bigfoot socks, but I don't have them on because it's just too damn hot here. 105, everything's on fire. I had ash on my plants in my garden today. What the? Oh, Don Rife, the Viking has landed. Hello, Mr. Rife. You're Hobo Man 5. If I said hello before, I'm saying hi again. Let's see here. There's Karen Robb. Hello there, Karen Robb. Miss Natalie Smith, is Wheezy with us tonight? Hello, Wheezy. If not, we'll see you next time. That's right. Moving on down the list here. Obsidian Radio. Hello there. I think I said hello to you. I'm really out there tonight. Dean Cooper. That's right. He's our quasi-scientist. Yeah, Mike Hunt got put in the in timeout for a while. We'll see if he comes back or not. Dixie Q. Hello, Dixie Q. Glad you're with us. The Reverend Tim McCune. Hello, Reverend. Let's see here. Moving down to the bottom here. If you haven't said hi, then I don't know you're here. And I can't say hi to you. So it's kind of like that. There's Mr. Rod Dupree. He's always in the place to be. That is correct. All right. So there we are, people. We are down to it. What's the smoke like down there in Marysville? The sun was orange all day. Didn't get a whole lot of sun through it. There's my boy. Hello, Sean. Glad you finally checked in. Literally, my boy. Glad you checked in tonight there. Yeah, smoke's it's there, man. Like I said, we got orange. We had an orange sun all day. It felt like it was overcast and rainy all day. Oroville's on fire. And I had ash on my plants. I mean, it was very, very strange. I thought it was white powdery mildew. I was quite upset myself, actually, but apparently it was not. So there's that. Yeah. There we go. Dave Jackson just checking in a little late as well. All right. So glad everyone is there. I did say hi to Wheezy. I'm going to say hi to Wheezy again. Hello, Wheezy. Glad you are with us. Yeah, my boy just missed a tornado coming through his town today. Absolutely insane. All right. So we're going to talk about this thing over here tonight. Let's get at it. Hey, now, yeah, I don't even know the words to that song. All right, so here it is, folks. Don Young, copyrighted DB Young's picture here. 3 different versions of the picture as we look at it here. He set up a DSLR camera trap because he was being sponsored by everybody's biggest mark. Unfortunately, Wally Hersom, once again, you've heard that name several times. The guy that started the BFRO, never got any credit for it. The guy that basically backed the Erickson project, never got any credit for it. The guy that basically paid for Ketchum's DNA study, never got any credit for it. Yep, this is another one of his bilking projects, unfortunately. Wally was out looking for real pictures of Bigfoot. He wanted an actual real picture of a Bigfoot. And when he came across Don Young's claims of a Sasquatch visiting his project, he told him that he would put him in the field full time, sponsor him with any equipment he needed if he would get him a guaranteed picture of a Sasquatch. And this is what he delivered. On a moonlit night, a DSLR camera trap, which didn't ever exist, by the way, uh, delivered the picture on the far right. This dark, murky picture of a moonlit, I don't know, is that a $6 million man? Andre the Giant toy. I'm not really sure what the model of this was. Now there are some other enhancements of it. Here is one. Um, Very mannequin like pose. The hands, if you look, are identical, exactly the same as if I don't know, they were created that way. They're in the exact same pose. They have the same amount of distance between them. The arms are nearly the same type of things as well. There was a comparison shot that went out with this one. Now, of course, the pictures that they have out here are of different things. The left-hand picture is, of course, the original picture with the Sasquatch in it. The picture for comparison on the right is of his wife, who is like 5'4" or so, and not even the same aspect in which the other picture was taken. You can see that the trees are not in the same aspect, and this is a completely different angle at which these pictures were taken at, and they're trying to compare these tree limbs that are above his head here and the tree limbs that are above her head here, but they're not even on the same tree to be compared to. So it's already a big long stretch that goes along with it. Also, throughout the investigation, they came up with this picture of a real live Sasquatch of sort, so they say. Don had hidden a bucket full of peanut butter and peanuts and sunflower seeds and covered it in syrup and honey inside this hollow log. And something came in there and destroyed the hollow log to get to it and ate it all out. But these were the only pictures that showed any kind of creature like on it at all. Now, this could be anything. Now, they claim that this is the head of a Sasquatch and that this is, that there's an ear there and there's evident, yeah, could be the ass end of a friggin' brown mouse for all I friggin' know. As we talked about, here's Wally Hersom and Don Young's private wildlife preserve and research area, founded in 2010, which means he actually did get a grant to do this type of thing on this private piece of property. Now, if you listen to the interview that I'm going to talk about here in a minute, you'll hear Don actually talking about what his plans were, that if you had a Sasquatch that was, coming up to your home and it was messing with your bird feeders or messing with your animals' food, that, well, you just call old Don here and Don will come out and he'll live trap that Sasquatch, transport it out here to the Wallace Hersom Donald Young private wildlife preserve and research area, where only the most qualified researchers are going to be allowed to come. Now, I, since 2010, in an entire decade, don't know a single person who's actually ever been to the Wallace Hersom Donald Young private wildlife preserve and research area. Uh, if anybody of you have heard anybody that's been out to this Wallace Hersom Donald Young private wildlife preserve and research area, I'd be really interested to know as to what goes on out there. But I digress. We'll go back to the first picture here now. Okay, so if you go out, it was it was forever ago. April 3rd, 2015, 5 years ago now. Don Young finally had to explain the $100,000 Bigfoot photo. Basically, Don Young's never done a radio interview like this one before, and The photograph is worth words and hundreds of thousands of dollars. Hear it from the man himself on how he managed to capture the magnificent photo of what is believed to be a Bigfoot. Now, this particular photo is the one that we are talking about tonight. During the expedition in the Sierras in 2013, Bigfoot benefactor Wally Hersham offered $100,000 to prove to him a Bigfoot photograph was not real. Hersham believes that the game camera photograph to be a real image of a Bigfoot. The photograph was taken on D.B. Young's property and is commonly known as Big Phil. Since any evidence was presented to Wally would probably be subjective, we decided to pass up the offer. If you're not familiar with the story of Big Phil, here is the summary of it. Wow, unfortunately, it's all in white, but yeah, we can do it that way. All right. So, BFRO group members are divided about the provenance of this image. At first glance, many believe that it's fake. However, the people who are familiar with the location and know D.B. Young's character believe it's not a fake. Some in the group may change its statue, but a statue cannot walk. Some may say it's a large person who came into Mr. Young's backyard that winter night to stage a prank, but who could walk more than a mile in below zero temperatures of snow-frozen swamps barefooted. Yes, barefooted. The footprints on Mount Pelee Road had signs of ice melt indicating barefoot pad warmth, not a cold sole shoe. People who have attended expeditions in Mr. Young's area have themselves witnessed strange events, such as large figures, unknown sounds, or have been tormented at night. The photo, called Big Phil, was obtained with a motion detection triggered trail cam at a property owned by Mr. Young near the South Fork of the Flambeau River in north central Wisconsin. D.B. Young, the man who set up the trail cam, is a professional hunting fishing guide and wildlife specialist. He spends most of his time afield stalking deer herds, studying bears, wolves, coyote, and other animals in the deep forest to make sure he knows where to bring his customers during the fall hunting season or for animal watching events. His intention for the camera set was to catch an animal that was killing pet cats during past weeks. D.B. Young described a handful of Bigfoot-related incidents over the past years to BFRO researchers who are expedition attendees, including one within a few hundred yards of the property where the photo was obtained. Several people from the BFRO met D.B. Young during the BFRO's 2006 Wisconsin expedition. His observations led the group to the swampy tributary of the South Fork of the Flambeau. Over the course of 2 weeks in June, at least 40 of the 65 participants heard the distinct sounds of Sasquatches around the perimeter and within deep forest swamp. At least 10 of the participants reported stalking and brief rock-throwing encounters around this tributary. During later expeditions, attendees and researchers had close encounters, various encounters with tall bipedal forest-dwelling creatures. In the months following the expedition, Don was visited by a few people who heard about the activity in the area, including documentary producer Don Hychik and animal pheromone expert Dr. Greg Bambenek. Hychik and Bambenek were impressed enough with Don to provide him with a digital trail cam. Don set up this camera after it was noticed that the 4 of the 7 cats on the property were missing. It was assumed that a predator was to blame. Don wanted to get a vote of whatever predator would be involved. The trail cam was triggered a few times during the night. It snapped a few photos, but all those images were very dark. The camera had a visible white internal flash system, but the flash had been inadvertently disabled by low battery life. Even when the flash disabled, though, the unit still snapped photos when triggered by motion. D.B. Young checked the camera and found 12 dark images. He erased all of the dark images except the last one, which showed a curious shard of backlit illumination. When the brightness and gamma was adjusted on the image, the silhouette of a large, upright figure was visible. Shortly after seeing the enhanced image, D.B. Young returned to where the camera had been aimed to look for tracks in the snow, and there were many. These tracks measured 15.5 to 16 inches in length with visible human-like toes and heel patterns. The toes in these tracks dug in, curling downward in some of the prints, indicating actual toe mobility, not solid as shoe or form. The branch of a tree, just as the photograph, the creature's head was measured at 8.5 feet, making Big Phil frightening 8 feet tall with a shoulder width of 3 feet. Although during the first couple of weeks after the photo, D.B. Young was not able to locate the forest path beyond Mount Twilight Road. That spring, the tracks had been located and led Mr. Young to another researcher about 1 mile into the deep swamp of the Mount Pelee Springs. This was in the opposite direction that Big Phil was first suspected of going. Then Big Phil's trail was lost, due in part to some springtime snowmelt and swamp flooding by the beaver ponds. This investigation is still ongoing, going. And there you have the story of Big Phil and the $100,000 Bigfoot hoax. Yeah, I mean, no one's ever been able to have any other pictures or video come out of the area. No more footprints have been found. Nothing has been found on any of this since 2010. So there we have it, folks. The story of Big Phil and the $100,000 Bigfoot hoax. Yeah, I don't know what to think of that one either. It's really kind of weird, creepy. Yeah, fake as hell. I agree, Frank. Probably not the best example of a real Bigfoot, of a real Bigfoot picture at all. So with that, we're gonna wind up this edition of the Squatchers Lounge podcast. And I don't know what happened over there. Oh, that's why. Yeah, sure. And I do have a Bigfoot campfire story to wrap it all up with tonight. So with that, I want to thank all of you guys for being here live tonight with me. We'll be back next week at 8 p.m. Pacific. Technically, next week will be a Bigfoot Entertainment Monthly because it's the last show of the month. So, yay, I got off easy this month. Ha, hee hee, to the funny farm. We'll pick out a movie and we will post it up so everybody can enjoy it before the show. Thank you guys for being here. And until next week, may the Squatch be with you. You. And watch out for them crazy-ass, friggin' violent racists in the woods. Oh my God, it didn't load. Well, there we have it. Sorry, Bigfoot Campfire Stories Live failed miserably. Hang on a second here. I'll see if I can't fix that for you real quick. I'm so sorry. It's my fault. Yeah, I can probably do that. Yep. We're good. Give me just a second. All right. No, that's not going to work. Son of a bitch. I know. I'm being a dirtbag. That's not it either. Wow. Failure. I guess I wasn't doing that then. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry, folks. I really, really am. Okay, let's try this one. There. All right, let's run that. See how that What the hell is that? I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure that was a Bigfoot. Let me tell you a story. Well, this story was told to me by a fellow named Travis. Now, Travis was a lifelong deep trail camper, as he liked to fish in places that were tough to get to in the mountains of western Virginia. After a week at his location, a strange visitor showed up. Well, let's just say it got a little hairy. Let's hear his story. I had scheduled a trip up to the Shenandoah River State Park to fish for a couple of weeks, and, well, as usual, my fishing partner backed out at the last minute, so I was on my own once again. I traveled up to the park by car, and I left it in the parking area and packed in the 5 miles to my campsite. After setting up camp, I'd set off to find that deep pool that contained dinner. After an hour of searching, I located what seemed to be a quiet spot to catch some nice rainbow to smoke on the fire for later on. And sure enough, 30 minutes later, I had 2 nice fish in the basket. So I went ahead and gutted and cleaned them right there and headed back to camp. And when I got back to camp, I set a small fire going and set the fish in some tin foil with some lemon and some garlic and some thyme and set the pockets on the fire to cook. I walked back to the trail to relieve myself when I noticed what first seemed like some odd markings on a couple of the trees. It was as if someone had stood there and beat the crap out of the trunk of a tree with a baseball bat. The bark was all depressed into it and pushed into the meat of the trees as if something had used that spot over and over again. Even the base of the tree was beaten down as the soil around it was compacted, as something heavy had stomped all around it on a regular basis. Strange, to say the least. A couple of days later, on my way back to camp, I found a big old log that somehow found its way across the path that led back to my camp. I just traveled that way yesterday on the way back, and it was clear of anything of this size. Took a look around, and I couldn't find any place where this log had come from. It was as if something or someone had carried it into that location and put it in my way. Yet another odd occurrence happened that night when I turned in for some sleep. About 2 a.m, I was awoken to what sounded like breathing outside of my tent. I must admit, I was disturbed at first, but I spoke softly as not to scare whatever it was. I slowly unzipped my tent, and then a loud knock rang out directly from that location I'd found a couple of days before. I ducked my head back inside the tent, and I sat there till morning, pretty unnerved. As soon as the sun was up enough to see, I got out of the tent and began to collect my thoughts about what happened. I have no idea what can knock on a tree that way, but that isn't anything that I've experienced before. I decided that had been just about as much excitement at night as I could stand. I decided to pack up camp and head back out to the car. An hour later, I was walking along the trail when something hit the back of my pack. I needed a break anyhow, so I took it down and sat down for a rest. When I noticed it was a rock, that's what hit my pack. Someone or something just threw a rock at me. I gathered up my pack and started to head on my way, and just then another rock was slung at my position. And another, and another. Well, at that point, I was pretty much ran all the way back out towards the car. Finally, after 45 minutes of being paralleled and having rocks thrown at me, I finally reached the parking area where my lone car awaited. I tossed my pack in the car, and I drove out of the area as quickly as my little Prius could go. I have no idea what it was that week, but I'll bet I really won't like the answer. Travis had a run-in with something with fingers, and at least that's what it takes to knock on trees and throw rocks. I'll bet he looks at camping differently now. Thanks for listening. I'm Reverend Jeff, and may the Squatch be with you.